presentation, you will have time to ask some questions. You are muted, however, you can type in questions, and Liz will be asking those questions of me, and I'll be happy to answer those as well. Also, if you have additional information, you can certainly go to our website. If there's questions that we don't answer that you would love answered, you can also email us and we'll follow up with you with the answers to those questions as well. So I hope you'll enjoy the presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Liz now, and then I'll be happy to answer your questions once we're all done. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Paige. I'm going to go ahead and close out my camera here so you guys can see the full presentation. So I have some slides for you to look at, and I hope that I can give you a good idea of all the programs that we're offering this summer and kind of the idea behind Eagle's Nest Camp and Hante Adventures and our philosophies. So if you have questions, like Paige said, please go ahead and type those in, and then we'll answer those after the presentation. And I also encourage you all to check out our website. It's here on your screen, enf.org. We have a great video on our website that really shows what Eagle's Nest is all about. So I'll make sure to send you a link of that after the presentation as well. So our mission at Eagle's Nest is experiential education for young people, promoting the natural world and the betterment of human character. And at everything we do at camp, we work towards those goals of bettering children and staff alike and helping them connect to the natural world. So we're an independent nonprofit organization, and we're located in Western North Carolina, which you can see on your screen is a beautiful place. We're in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and we're very close to Pisgah National Forest and DuPont State Forest, so it's just beautiful natural areas where we can go backpacking and rock climbing and whitewater paddling. There's lots of exploring to do. And we're also accredited by the American Camp Association, which is a very fancy way of saying that it's a fun and very, very safe place for kids to be. And we're a co-ed camp for kids in kindergarten through 9th grade, and really we have programs that go all the way through 12th grade, which I'll explain in a few minutes. We have a number of different sessions throughout the summer so that you can choose the length that works well for your family. And we do have scholarships and financial aid available because we want to make camp accessible to everyone who wants to be there. So because you can start coming to camp at such a young age in kindergarten, we have many programs that you can grow into over your time at Eagle's Nest. I'm going to tell you more about these in a few minutes, but you can start wrapping your head around that progression of programs now. We have added adventures, which are trips that go off campus for small groups, and those are things that you sign up for before camp starts. I'll explain these more in a few minutes. We have Hante Adventures, and these are our wilderness and cultural trips that go all over the country and all over the world as well. We have a junior counselor leadership program, so this is for rising 12th graders who have outgrown the traditional camp age and want to come and learn how to be counselors and learn great leadership skills. And then finally, we have something called the Outdoor Academy. So this is what's happening on our Eagle's Nest campus during the year. The Outdoor Academy is a semester school for 10th graders where they come and they spend either their fall or their spring semester, and they live on our campus and take all of their classes here. And on the weekends, they do outdoor programming, so they're out on backpacking trips, and they're whitewater paddling, and they're rock climbing, and they're really connecting with the natural world here in Western North Carolina. So I'm going to tell you mostly about our summer programs tonight, but if you have questions about the Outdoor Academy, we're happy to answer those as well. So when people ask me what makes Eagle's Nest so special and what makes it different from other camps in the area, my one-word answer is community. The community at Eagle's Nest is incredible. We have a nurturing community where every single camper is encouraged to be their very best self. And within that broad camp community, we have 3 smaller communities that every single camper is a part of. And the idea behind this is that campers can meet lots of different people, and they can be a part of all of these smaller communities and the big camp community as well. So cabins are where you live at camp, and this is the first community that you'll come into. We have 6 boys cabins and 6 girls cabins. They all have their own personality, but as you can see on the screen here, they have screened-in windows, they all have electricity, they have bathrooms with showers in every single cabin, and there are 8 to 14 campers per cabin and 3 to 4 counselors, as well as a junior counselor. And you'll do a lot of fun things with your cabin, but you don't do everything with your cabin group. For example, you'll choose your activities independently of your cabin mates, which I'll explain more in a few minutes. The second of those smaller communities is your tribe. We have 4 tribes at Eagle's Nest, 2 boys tribes and 2 girls tribes. And you're put into your tribe one of the first nights of camp, and then as you come back to camp year after year, you rejoin your tribe. And there are lots of different traditions for each of the tribes. People feel real pride and ownership within their tribe. And it's this place of belonging within the larger camp community, and this wonderful community to reconnect with every single summer. And then finally, the third of those small communities is your table family. And this personally is my favorite part of camp. Table families are groups of 3 boys and 3 girls of all different ages and 2 staff members, and they eat every single meal together every day for the entire session. So that means that when you come in to breakfast or lunch or dinner, you know exactly where you're going to sit, and you know the group of people that you're going to sit with. And it's great to be able to get to know that group of people throughout your time at camp. As a staff member, it's really important to me because it means I'm checking in with the same 6 campers 3 times a day. I'm making sure that they're having fun in their activities, that they're enjoying their cabin, that they're eating well, and that they're just having a great time at camp. And you also grow very close to this group of people because you spend so much time with them. Table families are really special at Eagle's Nest. And speaking of table families, the food at camp is incredible. We have a Whole Foods kitchen, so much of our food is made from scratch. A lot of our vegetables come from our garden on campus, so campers can actually dig up the potatoes or harvest tomatoes that they'll see on their table later on that day or later on in the session. And each camper also has the opportunity to help make bread for the entire camp at least once during the session. So they'll come in with their cabin group after breakfast, and they'll head back into the kitchen with Allie, our baker, and they'll make bread that they'll see on the table later that day at dinner. And that gives kids great ownership. They realize that they play a very important role in our community, and they're also seeing where their food is coming from, which is very important. So during the day at camp, we have 4 different activity periods. There are 2 between breakfast and lunch and 2 between lunch and dinner. And campers sign up for activities on one of the first days of camp, and they'll sit down with Paige, our camp director, or myself, or another camp administrator, and they'll look at a board that has all of the activities listed, and we have a personal conversation with every single camper about what they would like to take while they're at camp. So they choose their activities. We ask that they choose from 3 different categories so that they have a balanced schedule. The first of those categories is wilderness classes, and these are things like rock climbing or whitewater paddling, backpacking, really anything that's happening outside in the woods. The second of those categories is arts, music, and drama, and there are lots of activities to choose from within this category. So there's traditional arts and crafts, there's ceramics, there's guitar. You can come to camp and learn how to play guitar. There are lots of other music classes as well. We have a big all-camp musical that happens each summer, and that's second session. And not only do the kids perform in the musical, they build the set and they design and sew the costumes, so they have a hand in everything that happens during that production. And then the third of those categories is athletics, and these are really any traditional sport that you can think of, as well as things like archery and swimming and horseback riding, also ultimate frisbee, basketball, soccer, all sorts of things to choose from in athletics. And then we have a category called special activities, and these are things that don't quite fit into those other categories, and these are classes like the one pictured here. This is called ironwood, and this is traditional blacksmithing and green woodworking. So campers are actually making wooden bowls and spoons out of fallen trees, and they're building fires on the forge and learning the traditional Appalachian craft of blacksmithing. We also have a class called Walks and Waterfalls, which is one of our most popular classes. And this class goes off campus every other day to a different waterfall. We have over 200 waterfalls in our area, so we love to explore these and hike around them and just really experience the beauty of this area. So I mentioned that we have 4 activity periods during the day, but after dinner each night we have a period called Twilight. And this is our free choice activity period. And this is a time to choose something different every single day, or you can do the same thing every day. But you don't sign up for these classes beforehand. So if you want to go swimming down at the lake for free swim, that's a great thing to do. There's always an arts and crafts project happening, or you can head over to the arts and crafts arena and just work on a project that you have going in another class. There's always a big game down on the athletic field, and each cabin also spends one twilight period working together in the garden. So if they choose not to take gardening as an activity every day, they still get to learn about the garden, learn about composting, and see where their food is coming from. So a few minutes ago, I mentioned that we have a number of programs that campers can grow into over their time at Eagle's Nest. And the first of those are added adventures. Added adventures are 5-day to week-long trips that campers sign up for beforehand that go somewhere away from campus. For example, first session, we have a trip called Paleo, and this is our primitive living experiment. And it's for grades 6 through 8, and it happens session 1, which is a 2-week session. So this group of campers will go out into Pisgah National Forest, and they'll set up a base camp there. And they'll learn all about building shelter and foraging wild edibles and making fire without using matches or lighters, really living off of the land. It's an incredible adventure, and of course they do take food and tents and matches, but it's a great way to learn about living off the land in the wilderness. Second session, which is a 3-week session, we have a trip called Huck Finn. And this is probably our most well-known added adventure because it's been happening now for over 30 years. And this group of campers floats down the French Broad River, which is the 3rd oldest river in the world, on a homemade raft, which you can see in this picture is what they're standing on. That's the raft. And they float for a week down the river, just like Huck Finn. And each night they camp along the banks of the river and tell stories and create their own stories. And it's an incredible trip. Even though they do the same section of river each year, it's a different adventure depending on the staff and the group, and a great time. And then third session, which is also a 3-week session, we have a trip called Sea Islands. So this group goes down to Cumberland Island in Georgia for the middle week of that session. And they spend time camping on the beach, learning all about coastal ecosystems and the history of Cumberland Island. They get to know the wild ponies on the island. They get to play in the ocean and go fishing and crabbing. And it's great. They really get to experience the mountains and the beach, so they get the best of both worlds. So I mentioned that as kids outgrow our traditional camp programs, they can apply to be junior counselors. And this is our leadership program for rising 12th graders. We accept 12 junior counselors each session so that one lives in each cabin. And they learn all about different leadership styles, how to be stronger leaders, and also how to be counselors. And while these participants they're still participants. They are not full counselors yet. Most of them do go on to be great counselors after a couple of years. So for campers who are older, so this is rising 8th through 12th graders, we have a program called Hante Adventures. And these are our wilderness and cultural trips that go all over the United States and all over the world. We have a number of different trips that are offered each summer, and this summer we have 5 trips that are happening. The first one is Hante Trails, and this is a 2-week trip, and it's really geared more towards those campers who would like to learn more about wilderness travel and become more comfortable in the woods, backpacking and hiking. So this group will go out into Pisgah National Forest, and they'll base camp for a few days, and then they'll spend a few days backpacking on the Appalachian Trail. And then they'll spend a couple days doing a little bit of trail work on the Appalachian Trail as well, so that they can give back to the trail and also learn how trails are designed as well. This is all about trails. Another Hante that we're offering is called Rocks and Rivers, and this is a 3-week trip, and they get to do all of the coolest stuff that Western North Carolina has to offer. So they spend 1 week backpacking, they'll spend 1 week rock climbing, and they'll spend 1 week whitewater paddling. And these trips are for beginners. So if you're thinking, wow, that sounds really cool, but I don't have any experience in those things, That is okay. Everyone comes in as a beginner and learns these skills together, and they progress together. We have a group going to the Pacific Northwest this summer for 3 weeks. So they'll spend 1 week sea kayaking off of the San Juan Islands off the coast of Washington. And then they'll spend 2 weeks trekking through Olympic National Park. We also have a group going to Scotland for 3 weeks, and they'll spend that time trekking on the Great Northern Way. And each night they'll stay in different hiker hostels and get to know locals and really explore the culture and history of Scotland. And they'll also spend several days working on an organic farm so they can really get to know Scottish people and how they live and how they grow food and true culture of that country. And then finally, we have a trip called Appalachian Trail Trek in Virginia. So Hante Adventures started over 40 years ago as a trek on the Appalachian Trail. And that group went out and hiked over 100 miles on the trail. And that trip has happened every single year since then, just on a different section of trail. So this group will go out for 3 weeks and they'll carry everything that they need on their backs. And they'll hike about 100 miles through the Grayson Highlands area of southern Virginia. Grayson Highlands is gorgeous and it's known for wild ponies and really beautiful rock formations. And they'll grow together individually and as a group as well and have a very incredible experience. So back to camp. This is back to Eagle's Nest, and this is a really common sight at Eagle's Nest. We circle up a lot as a community, an entire camp community, to give thanks for each other for this experience and for the friendships that form at camp, because camp friendships are very special. It's an incredible place to come and to learn how to be your very best self and to learn how to be independent and to grow in compassion for the world, for others, for animals, for yourself as well. And also how to become more confident, and whether that means paddling down a river or coming to camp for the first time. Kids grow in confidence through coming to Eagle's Nest because they're empowered to be who they want to be during the time that they're here. And they connect with the natural world. Almost everything we do is outside. This is a common sight at camp. We are always in the streams and creeks, turning over rocks, finding out what's underneath them, and really forging those important connections with nature. And at the root of it all is joy, because camp is about coming to this special place and having fun and enjoying time together in the summertime. So as I mentioned earlier, our website is enf.org. We have a great video there that we would love for you to watch, and there are also thousands of pictures that you can scroll through on our website. We take pictures throughout the days at camp so that parents can actually look at pictures of their children online during the summer. So we have lots of pictures to share and also other videos as well. So at this point, it looks like some of you are typing in questions, which is awesome. And I'm going to go ahead and ask Paige some of your questions so that you guys can have some answers. So please continue to do that. Paige, are you back?
I'm here. Can you hear me? Thank you.
Excellent. I do. Excellent. Okay, let's start with some basics. How big is Eagle's Nest? Like, how many campers come each session?
Yeah. So I think Eagle's Nest is the perfect size. I think of us as being a small camp that's large enough to have many different friends. If you saw the last picture, one of the last pictures that Liz just showed of the circle at Eagle's Nest, that's us. That's camp. We have about 145 campers every session and about 60 staff members. So that big circle is all of our campers and staff members. Our campers come from all over the place. Primarily, our campers are coming from the southeast, as far south as Key West and north as Baltimore out to Nashville, Tennessee. That triangle kind of is where the majority of our campers are coming from. However, we do have campers coming from across the United States, and we also typically have about 20 international campers every year. So with that, camper to staff ratio is about 4-to-1. As Liz mentioned, in the cabins, there are typically 10 to 14 kids in a cabin and 3 or 4 counselors. So it's a very nice size. We're able to eat all together in the dining hall. If you were to watch the camp video, you'll see some footage of us singing in the dining hall after lunch. And that'll give you a good sense of the size too.
Great, thanks, Paige. Let's switch over to food for a second. Can you talk to us about food allergies and how that's handled?
Sure. So as Liz mentioned in the presentation, all of the campers are part of table families. And so from the time that campers arrive on that first day, Liz and I actually call out the table families, and there are 2 counselors at every table and 6 campers. And that's the table where they sit for every meal, the whole time that they're there at camp. And so one of the nice things about that, Liz mentioned that it gives you a family and a connection and a group to be part of. The other nice thing about that is it makes it much more easy for us to work with campers who have food allergies. We're sitting down to a meal that's family style. The counselors know the allergies that the campers have. They can make sure that they're getting the food that they need and that they're not getting the food that they shouldn't get. Our kitchen is able to accommodate many dietary restrictions and many dietary choices. We have campers who are vegetarian and vegan. We have campers with gluten allergies, with peanut allergies, with allergies to dye. We're able to accommodate all of that. The health hut is very aware of what the allergies are, and as is the kitchen and the table of parents. So that's something that's very easy for us to accommodate. And I think it's very important too, because we want campers to be able to come to Eagle's Nest regardless of any kind of food allergies that they have, and we want them to be safe while they're there. The other important thing about that is that food is it's a comfort item. And so sometimes we also have campers who are may not be allergic to foods, but may have they may just be picky. They maybe have not expanded their palate yet. And we're going to be very nurturing in helping them try new foods, and but also not force them to try new foods and help them feel comfortable with that. And the table counselors are very good at that. And it's interesting too, because I know that oftentimes parents try to help their campers try new foods, and that it can be very difficult, and it can become a struggle with parents. And it's interesting to see that at camp, kids often try foods that they don't try at home, and they're willing to venture out a little bit more. So in answer to that, we can absolutely work with food allergies and are very aware of those, and it's not a challenge for us.
Great. Paige, you mentioned the health hut. Can you tell us about nurses and doctors on staff each session?
Yeah, absolutely. So our health hut, we call our medical infirmary the health hut, and it's actually right in the middle of campus. It's just behind the dining hall, so it makes it easy for campers to leave the dining hall and head there if they take medicines after meals or if they're feeling a little bit sick. The health hut is staffed every session by typically two RNs, and we also have a EMT that works throughout the summer. Typically, the RNs who work at camp are people who are school nurses. We find that they, if they work in a school system, they understand many of the things that we see at summer camp, and they already have great experience working with kids. So those folks staff the health hut during the summer. We also have a doctor's office in town, and we'll go into town if we need to, if a camper's been sick for a little while and we want to get them checked out. The emergency room is also 10 minutes up the road, so it's very easy for us to get there. And the volunteer fire department is about just over a half a mile away. So if we need those folks, they're quick to respond to Eagle's Nest as well. So we have a lot of staff that care for the campers. Also, all of our staff members are required to have first aid and CPR at a minimum. We also do training in epinephrine, and many of our staff members who are leading wilderness trips are trained at a level of wilderness first aid, and most at wilderness first responder. we also have a couple of other EMTs and wilderness EMTs that work during the summertime.
Great, thanks.
Mhm.
We have a question about choosing classes. Can you explain our process for helping campers get at least their first or second choice of one class during the summer?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, and there are many pieces to that. So let me see if I can answer all of them. As Liz said during the presentation, campers choose from several different activity areas: wilderness, arts, and sports. And then we have a special category as well. So with 4 activity periods and 3 kind of areas that they choose from, campers might find that they really love being outside, and so they'd love to take 2 wilderness classes, and they can do that. They might also find that they don't really enjoy sports, and that's something that they're not as excited about taking. Fortunately, within the spread of each of our classes, there's always going to be 1 or 2 classes in that spread that appeals to some campers. So like in the sports, if we have campers who aren't really interested in sports, I always like to say that we have some sports light classes that will appeal to even the camper who really doesn't enjoy sports. So that's true of all of the different activity areas. Um, as Liz said, the campers sign up for classes once they get to camp. This is part of our philosophy and part of our goal of giving kids a chance to become independent and to make choices for themselves. And so they don't pre-sign up for classes, and parents don't sign them up for classes. They choose those classes when they get to camp. However, we guide them in that because oftentimes it's very difficult for a 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old to decide, gosh, I really want to take this. And when they see a board with lots of choices, it's difficult for them to decide what they want to take. And so Liz and I and a couple of the other camp leaders will help them choose those classes and do it in such a way that they have a balanced schedule that includes wilderness, arts, and athletics. Um, to start that process, on the first night that they're at camp, they actually spend time one-on-one after dinner with their table counselors. And while one counselor is playing games with the table, the other counselor will sit down and talk to them and say, okay, John, you just saw the skits this afternoon. What appeals to you? What are some of the classes that you would really like to take? And John will say that my top 3 choices that I really want to do are archery would be #1, and then I'm really interested in horseback riding, and I'd also like to try rock climbing. And that table counselor writes down the order of those choices. And then that night, when the kids go to bed, we like to say that the scheduling fairies come out, and we actually go through all of those cards and look at all of the requests and sort them out into classes so that each camper gets at least their first choice class. And last summer in first through third sessions, we were able to give all of the campers their first and second choice classes that first night. So then when they come to sign-ups the following day and to sit down with me and Liz and the others that I talked about, they already have a card that has 2 classes on them. And at that point I would say, okay, John, look, it looks like you're signed up for archery and horseback riding. Are you excited about that? And of course he'll say, oh, I'm so excited, which is great news. And then we go on to fill out the rest of the classes and schedule them for the rest of the things. We're able to do that in the 2-week session at the beginning of the summer and the next 3-week-long sessions during sessions 2 and 3. For the 1-week session, we don't have time to do that same process, but we still do the process where the campers come and sign up with us individually the next day. And we work very hard to ensure that they're in classes that they enjoy and that they're getting to take classes that they really love. The other thing about class signups is sometimes campers might say, I really want to take Batik. That sounds wonderful. And we'll sign them up for that class, and they'll get into it for a few days and realize, this isn't really what I expected it to be. I don't think that I really want to do Batik. After they've tried it for a week, if they really, don't want to continue in that class, they can come to the program office and talk to us, and we'll help them find a class that's better suited for them.
Excellent. Thanks, Paige. So we have a question about how cabins are determined and if you can request a friend to be in the cabin with you.
Sure. So when you fill out the application, there is a spot on the application that asks about your child's maturity and if they should be with older or younger peers or if you have a preference. It also asks if you have friends that are attending camp and if you have any requests about cabin mates. When we are organizing kids into campers, I actually read all of those applications and all of those comments when I'm working on putting campers into cabins. We do group kids by their peer group, and so what we look at is the grade that they've just finished in school. And typically they're in a cabin with other kids that have just finished that same grade. And most often the cabins are just specifically to that grade. Sometimes there'll be two grades in a cabin. And so they are with that peer group and they'll continue to be. So a camper who starts out in after finishing third grade will be with other kids who finished third grade or potentially kids who finished second grade and third grade or third grade and fourth grade. And they'll continue with that same cabin group throughout the year. So, year after year, they'll come back and see those same friends that have been in that peer group with them before. As far as requests for friends in their cabin, we don't guarantee that they'll be in the same group as their friend. However, as I said earlier, Eagle's Nest is small. The cabins are peer groups. And so oftentimes, if the friend is in the same grade and is the same age, and you've requested that they be in the cabin together, most likely they will be. A time when that request would be difficult to honor would be when campers are not in the same grade, in which case they would probably be in different cabin groups. Although, since Eagle's Nest is small, they do see each other around campus often. It is easy to check in with friends. It's not difficult to see the people that they may have come to camp with. And then certainly cabin counselors are going to do everything that they can to help to help the campers settle in nicely and to make friends and to feel comfortable in their cabin groups.
Excellent. We have a question about differences between the different session lengths. Can you tell us how sessions differ based on 1 week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks?
Sure. Each session has a little bit of its own flavor, and I think the nice thing about having different session lengths is that, for some families, a week is a nice amount of time to come. It fits into their schedule, it fits into their budget, it fits into, what the camper feels ready for. For other families, 3 weeks is a great period of time too, and they're during that time able to do a little bit more, develop skills a little bit as well. So each session, just in terms of length, has a little bit of a different flavor, just in terms of what you're able to do. Beyond that, each session does typically have a different theme a little bit, and campers over the years get very attached to the session that they come to. The first session is 2 weeks long at the beginning of the summer. During that session, we celebrate the summer solstice in the beginning of the summer. We have a lot of pageantry around that, maybe a big bonfire. It's the beginning of the summer, and so kids are very excited to be out of school, and counselors are very excited to finally have kids there after a couple of weeks of training, and so there's a lot of excitement in the air for first session. Second session in the middle of the summer is when we do the camp musical. Liz mentioned that earlier. Every year, during that 3-week period, we put on a show. Last year, it was James and the Giant Peach, which was fantastic. I'm not sure what it'll be this year, but I'm sure it'll be awesome. Also, during that session, we have a thing called Giving Day, where every camper in camp pulls the name of another camper or staff member early on in the session, and they spend the rest of that session making a special gift that they give to that person on the last night of camp. They keep it secret. It's a very magical, it's a wonderful event and tradition that's been going on for 30 years or more now. During the third session, we have a big final banquet. This is also a lot of fun. It has a thematic banquet. Last year, it was about the West and the journey to the West and the new frontier. We've had final banquets that have had themes like Robin Hood or The Land Before Time. If you go to our YouTube channel, you can check out a couple of videos from the past final banquets. But they have big themes. We keep it secret. The counselors spend the last week of camp late at night building sets and making costumes and preparing a script and acting out this experiential drama that is Final Banquet. It's just a magical, very fun event. Watching the videos will give you a better sense of that. And then fourth session is our 1-week session at the end of the summer. We like to call that session the best of the nest. Since it's only a week long, we look back at the summer and we think about what were the most popular activities, what were some of the things that we did that were the most fun, and we make sure to do those during that session. We just try to eke in all the fun that we can do in that last session of the summer. Does that answer that question, Liz? Just kind of a sense of how each session is different. And certainly, Liz and I would be happy if you're wondering, like, what's the best length of time for my camper and my family? We can certainly answer that question and give you some tips about what might work best.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, could you tell us a little bit about how parents can communicate with their child while they're at camp, and also speak a little bit about electronics at Eagle's Nest?
Sure. So while campers are at camp, we encourage parents to write letters to them, and we encourage the campers to write letters home to their parents as well. Campers don't call home while they're at Eagle's Nest, and parents don't call the campers while they're there. It's can be disruptive and can be challenging for campers to talk to their parents while they're away. But we do encourage writing, and it's really wonderful to get letters from camp and to be able to save those precious stories of Eagle's Nest. So while you are not able to communicate directly with your campers via the telephone or email, you can talk to me. So it's very difficult to be far away from your camper and not know what's going on. They're busy, they're having a great time, but you're probably home working or doing whatever else you're doing and wondering how are they doing. When you're feeling nervous like that and wondering and going to the mailbox and hoping for a letter and not receiving one, you can call me or you can call Liz or you can email us and we'll check in with you and with the camper and let you know how they're doing. During the session at some point too, you'll also receive a postcard from the cabin counselors, and they'll tell you a little bit more about how things are going in the cabin and what their perception is of how the camper is doing. Certainly, if you get a homesick letter, you can get in touch with us and we can check on that as well. As far as electronics go, Liz asked about that as well. We are unplugged at Eagle's Nest, so we ask campers to leave their cell phones and laptops and Nooks and Kindles and all of those things at home. We want them to take a break from those things while they're at camp and to give them a chance to connect with nature and to connect with the friends that they can make at Eagle's Nest and really, I guess, plug into each other, into those real connections that they can make and leave the screens behind. They'll be there for them when they get home if they need to pick them up then. Hopefully they'll be less excited about those things and more excited about just being outside and with friends. So those things leave at home, and as far as connecting and checking in on your campers, write letters or call or email me and I'll check in as well.
Awesome, thank you. So it looks like we have time for one more question, and I want to let you guys know we have lots of questions. So if we didn't answer your question now, we'll be in touch via email, and we can talk on the phone and answer all of your questions then as well. So Paige, can you talk a little bit about who our counselors are and the hiring process behind that?
Yeah. Absolutely. So I could talk about our counselors for days, but since we only have a little bit more time, I'll just tell you that they are a phenomenal group of people. I really love working with our camp staff. They are folks who have exceptional judgment. I think that's my #1 priority when hiring staff, is to make sure that they're going to be people who understand how important it is for them to care for the safety of your children. So they have great judgment to begin with. They're also very hardworking and have a wonderful work ethic. And they're passionate about working with children. Many of the staff members who are working at Eagles Nest are educators or are in school to become educators. When I see applications cross my desk that are from students who are studying education, I immediately organize an interview with them. When I'm hiring staff members, they do go through an application process that includes information about their experience working with children, several essay questions. Once, I've had a chance to review the applications, the ones that look promising, we schedule a Skype interview with, so I have a chance to look them in the eye and ask them lots of questions. Those interviews last about an hour. For the folks who are strong applicants and who've had a great interview, we check 2 references, and we also do a phone reference check as well. Once staff members are hired to work at camp, all of them go through a week-long staff orientation period. The staff members who are teaching higher risk activities like rock climbing and whitewater canoeing and backpacking and horseback riding all have additional 4- and 5-day clinics prior to the start of the summer, during which time they learn more about our policies and procedures and receive some additional certifications. But overall, I mean, I think our staff members come from all over the place. We have lots of staff members who have been Eagles Nest participants in the past and understand our traditions and our culture. We also have many staff members who are brand new to Eagles Nest and, like I said, are very interested in teaching and working with children and are creative, joyful people who will be excellent role models and mentors to your children. So I can't say enough about our staff members. Those are the people that create the experience for the campers. Those are the ones who are helping them when they're feeling homesick. They're the ones that are keeping them safe in the activities that they're participating in. So it's a very important role, and I think that we have exceptional staff members. I love working with them every summer too, so they're pretty awesome.
I agree. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Paige, for answering those questions. And thank all of you guys for joining us for this presentation and question and answer session. As I said, if we missed your question, we'll be in touch via email, and we'll actually be in touch with all of you. And we'll send you a link to our video and to our website so that you can continue to learn more about Eagles Nest.
Yeah.
So thank you so much again for taking the time to join us. And Paige, sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say, yes, Liz will be in touch. She can answer more questions for you. You're also welcome to email me if you'd like. My email address is paige, P-A-I-G-E, at ENF, like Eagles Nest Foundation.org. I'm happy to answer questions as well, and if you would like us to give you a phone call, we'd be happy to do that too. We'd love to see your children at Eagles Nest or Hante Adventures this summer.
Definitely. And we've been recording this webinar, so it will be up on our YouTube channel in a couple days. So if you'd like to watch again or share with friends, you can do it that way. So thank you so much for joining us, and have a great night.
Have a good night. Goodbye.
Bye.